Okay, welcome to this fun installment of mathematics. In this video I wanted to touch base on using fractions and mixed numbers to solve different types of application problems and how that works, obviously through the order of operations. So first and foremost, I wanted to start with a concept that we should all be familiar with, which is the average. So what you need to remember about average is that average is a division problem. You sum up all of your parts and then you're going to divide that value by the number of parts that you summed together. So first and foremost, I have that we need to find the average for the set of numbers, and the first set is 1/4 and 1/5. So when we're looking at it, the first thing we need to do is we have to look at the sum of your parts, which in this case is going to be 1/4 plus 1/5. So when we're adding 1/4 to 1/5, we have to look at your least common multiple between 4 and 5. So my least common multiple here is going to be 20. In order to take 4 up to 20, I have to multiply by 5. So this becomes 1 times 5 over 20 plus 1 times 4 over 20. The whole thing is over 20, and I end up with 5 plus 4, which gives me 9 over 20. Now the other part that I have to pay attention to is I have to pay attention to the number of parts added together. And this is, we're adding 2 different pieces together, so this is 2. What that means is that I have a new operation. I have to take my 9 over 20 and I have to divide this by 2. Now I need to remember 2 is a whole number, so it's the same as 2 over 1. And when we're going to divide, we have to use our rules. So this is going to be 9 over 20. Change the sign to multiplication and flip the reciprocal. So this becomes 1/2. So in this, we're going to go straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So this is going to give me 9 over 40. There is nothing in common, which means 9 over 40 is the average of those 2 values. We can do that same idea using 3 values. And in this case, I have some mixed numbers. So the first thing that I have to do before I even get started is we need to change the different values to improper fractions. So I have 3 and 3/8. So starting with 3 and 3/8, this is going to become 8 on the bottom, and then I'm going to have 8 times 3 plus 3, which is going to give me 27 over 8. I then have 4 and 1/2. So again, that's going to be a 2 on the bottom, and I'm going to have 2 times 4 plus 1, which gives me 9 over 2. I then have 5 and 2/5. So 5 on the bottom, and then this is going to be 5 times 5 plus 2, which equals 27 over 5. So again, I have to remember my 2 rules. First is the number of parts that we are going to add. And here I have 1, 2, 3, so my number of parts is 3. The second piece of the puzzle is I have to sum the parts. Summing the parts says 27 over 8 plus 9 over 2 plus 27 over 5. So when I look at that, I have to find my least common multiple. So here I know that 8 can break down into 2 and 4, which breaks down into 2 and 2. So to find my least common multiple, I have 2 cubed times 5 to the first. Well, when I actually do that math there, you're going to end up with 40. So now I have to be able to look at what I have, and I have to be able to do the math. So when I look at 8, I have to look at how do I take 8 to 40? Well, I do that by multiplying by 5. So this becomes 27 times 5 over 40 added to 2 to 40 means multiply by 20, so this becomes 9 times 20 over 40, and I have to add it to 27 times 8 over 40. My whole thing is over 40, and this is going to give me 135 plus 180 plus 216, which gives me all told of 531 all over 40. Now that's just the sum of the parts. Now I actually have to do the average part. The average part says take the sum of my parts and divide it by the number of parts added. So to find the average, says I have to take the sum of my parts, so 531 over 40, and I have to divide that by the number of parts added, which is 3. Division says I have to take what I have, so 531 over 40, and multiply that by the reciprocal of the second, so 1 over 3. Now, in doing so, we can look at, does 531 and 3 have anything in common? And what you'll notice is that if I look at this diagonal here, three goes away and leaves behind 177. Thus, making my average 177 over 40, and that is the overall result. Now the other thing that we can do, especially when dealing with fractions, is we can use applications. And so it doesn't matter if it's a fraction or a mixed number, the result is going to be the same. And so here we have 2 1/5 cups of stewed tomato and 1 2/3 cups of fully cooked beans. If the recipe is multiplied by 2 1/2, how much tomato bean mixture will there be? So the first thing that we have to do is we have to find the tomato bean mixture. Well, the tomato bean mixture is going to be found by adding together 2 1/5 cups of tomatoes and 1 2/3 cups of beans. So if we wanted to actually look at the full scope of what we're doing, I am taking my mixture, so I'm taking my 2 1/5 plus 1 2/3, and I am multiplying it by 2 1/2. Okay, because I want to expand it up. So that is the actual problem that we are trying to solve. So the first thing that I would do here is I would interchange everything over to fraction notation. So if I look at this first fraction, I'm going to still have a 5 in the bottom, and then this is going to be 5 times 2 plus 1, which is going to give me 11/5. If I look at this next one, I'm still going to have a 3 in the bottom, and this is going to be 3 times 1 plus 2, which gives me 5/3. Last, I need to look at 2 1/2. So again, I'm going to have 2 in the bottom, and this is 2 times 2 plus 1, which equals 5/2. So I have to rewrite my problem using the information I have. So this is 11/5 plus 5/3 times 5/2. Now, order of operations dictates I have to do my parentheses first. So here I'm looking at 11/5 plus 5/3. So my least common multiple here is going to be 5 times 3, because both 5 and 3 are prime, so that gives me 15. To take 5 up to 15 says I multiply by 3. So I'm going to have 11 times 3/15, added 2, and then to go 3 to 15 says I multiply by 5. So 5 times 5/15. Put the whole thing over one denominator and add across the top. 33 plus 25. In doing so, 33 plus 25 is going to give me 58/15. So I can rewrite my problem. So my problem here is going to become 58/15 times 5/2. Well, the first thing that you should be able to notice right off the bat is that 5 and 15, so these right here, will reduce down. So 5 goes away and leaves 1 behind, 15 goes away and leaves 3 behind. Now, the other thing that we can notice is that 58 and 2 are both even numbers. So what are we left with here? I am left with 58/3 times 1/2. And I'm looking at the fact that 58/2 will also reduce. So 58 and 2 goes away and leaves behind 29. So if I multiply straight across, this says I have 29/3 cups. However, that's not going to get you anywhere in the baking world, so you have to be able to take this and you have to interchange it back to a mixed number. So to do that, says I need to do old school division. Put 29 inside, 3 on the outside. 3 can go into 29 9 times, subtract out 27, and you are left with 2. That means our answer here is that we have 9 2/3 cups of mixture. And this would be the answer that we wanted for this problem. Let's look at another one. Emma goes to a buffet where the cost of the meal is determined by the weight of the food. Okay. It says among the items currently on the buffet, there are 8/9 kilograms of potato salad and 3/4 kilograms of chicken salad. If Emma puts 3/16 of the tomato salad and 2/15 of the chicken salad on her plate, she also takes 2 slices of bread that weigh 1/30 of a kilogram each. The first question says, what is the total weight of the food taken? Well, in order to do that, says that we have to add the weight of your potato salad plus the weight of the chicken salad plus the weight of the bread. So in order to put all of that together, we have to look at what we have. First and foremost, we know in my potato salad, I am taking 3/16 of the total weight that was there, 8/9 of a kilogram. I have to add this to the weight of my chicken salad. So chicken salad says I am taking 2/15 of the 3/4 that was sitting there. And I have to add this to the weight of the bread, which says I am taking 2 slices of the weight of my bread. Now with each of these I have parentheses, which means in each of these I have to solve them. First and foremost, if I pay attention to my first one, notice that I have 3 and 9. So 3 and 9 are going to reduce. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 3. Thus, making my problem 1/16 times 8/3. The second thing I have going for me is that 8/16 is going to reduce. So 8/16 reduces, this becomes a 1, this becomes a 2. So I'm left with 1/2 over 1/3. So when I multiply that together, I end up with 1/6 as a result. And this would be my kilograms of potato salad. I still have to add that to its next part, but I have to solve the next part. Again, first and foremost, I have 15/3. These will reduce down. This becomes a 1. This becomes a 5. Leaves me with 2/5 times 1/4. And then, cross multiplying again, I can reduce. So 2 and 4 reduce. This becomes a 1. This becomes a 2. So I'm left with 1/5 times 1/2. Straight across in the top and bottom leaves me with 1/10 of a kilogram. And I have to add that on to the last part. Well, if I remember, this is the same as 2/1. And here, my 2 and 30 would be the 2 pieces that would reduce. So this becomes a 1 and this becomes a 15, leaving me with 1/15 kilograms there. So I have 6, 10, and 15, and I need to find the LCM of 6, 10, and 15. So in this case, I know that 6 would reduce to 2 and 3. I know that 10 is going to reduce to 2 and 5. And I know that 15 is going to reduce to 3 and 5. In order to make this work, you have to take the highest power of each term. So I have a 2, I have a 3, I have a 5. So 2 times 3 is 6, times 5 is 30, giving me an LCM of 30. So when I look at my first term, I have to look at how does this become a 30? Well, I can put a 30 on the bottom. To change 6 into 30 said I had to multiply by 5, so 1 times 5 is 5 on top. To add it to my next one. To change a 10 into the 30 says I multiply by 3 and add it to the next one. To change a 5 into 30 says I multiply by 6. So all told, sorry, 15 into 30 says I multiply by 2. So all told I have over 30. 5 plus 3 plus 2, which in this case is going to give you 10 over 30. We know we can divide a 10 out of top and bottom, so the total weight of her meal was 1/3 kilograms, and that is the answer to the first part. So notice, to answer the first part of this, not only did we have to know how to construct the equation, but we had to be able to simplify it all the way down so that we could determine the weight. Now the second part says, if the restaurant charges $18 for each kilogram of food, including taxes, how much will Emma spend? So we have to do the dollars times the weight of food. And that is going to give me the cost. So it's going to cost $18 times 1/3 kilograms. So we have 18 over 3 is going to reduce down and give you $6 total for the meal. Now the biggest takeaway on a problem like this is you need to notice one thing. The answer you get in the problem before it is going to impact the problem after it. So notice, if this answer of the amount of weight that Emma took was wrong, then the amount of money you spent would be wrong as well. So in a problem like this, you do want to make sure in this first step here that you double check your work as you go. Okay? And if you come across any errors, like my error here where I read 5 instead of 15, that you correct them right away, because it is going to impact the rest of what you have to do. Okay? So that, in a nutshell, kind of sums up the different type of application problems that you could see related to fractions and mixed numbers. So if you have any questions, please make sure you let me know. Otherwise, remember, math is bananas. So just keep smiling, ask tons of questions, be sure to have lots of fun, relax, and as always, I'll see you next time.